So one of my favorite things here, one of my favorite things about this, these are the kind of people that complain about how like, oh, the feminization of putting women in these like, all this shit, right? And yet they'll also oftentimes complain about how oh, women are, women we're not allowed to have attractive women anymore, these different things, right? The kind of like Jordan Peterson, not attractive, did not, daddy can't jerk off. He didn't say that, but that kind of thing. And he has this guy has things like this on his thumbnail, which we'll get into this in a minute here. But it's wild to me how people get mad about putting women in more stories and giving them more of a spotlight, because as somebody who very much enjoys women and looking at women and appreciating women's beauty, why the fuck would you be mad about this? This is a variant comic, and we're about to get into what it's a variant comic of. This is a variant comic of an Avengers issue. A variant cover, my bad. A variant cover is essentially where you have the main cover, but then you have other artists come along and make other renditions of the cover. Oh, here, let me do this real quick. So you'll have artists do these variant covers. In this case, and I don't know if Mary Jane, actually, let's see, Mary Jane isn't even in this story. She's not even in this comic, but she's in these variant covers. There's a few reasons for that. One, my favorite artist here that we see on display, J. Scott Campbell, did these and is really good at drawing, well, women in general, but Mary Jane especially. And we're going to get into, we have the little J. Scott Campbell icon. And he actually did my favorite rendition of oh no, where'd it go? Oh, it's like way over here. J. Scott Campbell is my favorite artist because, I mean, you look at his work and you can see here. Can I just no? Okay. He's worked on like pretty much all of my favorite stuff as far as comics goes, like Spider-Man, absolutely, and his drawings of characters, especially like, well, all of them really. We can see some of his work here in a minute, but he made Gen 13. Fucking love that series, by the way. Really, really good series. Danger Girl, another really good series. Was actually very surprised at how good it was. I'm gonna have to keep flipping back with my with this because now the images are on the. Okay. Sorry. So he made a lot of he made these guys. He made, again, Danger Girl, like all of this stuff. He's drawn a lot of these different things. He worked on my favorite rendition of, he did Lady Death. Again, great series, great character. He worked on, where is it? My favorite rendition of fairy tale characters, Grimm Fairy Tales. This is an incredible series, by the way, where, just to gush about it in a minute here, and this will all lead into the next few points we're going into. I will be upfront. What the hell? That's not what I wanted. My bad. I will be upfront and say that there's a very obvious reason. Oh, I have to move them. No, we're good. Okay. There's a very obvious reason as to why I specifically really was attracted to this series in the first place. It's 100% the artwork. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna front that at all. But the actual stories of these characters are incredible. It like just mind blowing. The takes on these fairy tale characters and their stories and like modernizing. It's just so good. But, and this is where we'll get into the next thing here. Yes, these characters, these drawings, all of this stuff, right? The work by J. Scott Campbell here, Gen 13. I 100% was, interested in all of these things because really like the way he and other people draw women like this, 100%. Because again, being a man who likes women, I really like what I see. And we'll get into this in a minute here about women in comics and sexualization of women and all that stuff. But I want to point out that, how do I phrase this? What is a very common thing that I've noticed in comics is women will be drawn sometimes kind of overly sexual, overly sexualized and posed in certain ways where it's like, come on, that's not really necessary. And it even kind of takes me out of it. But the stories of these characters are always incredible. Always very, very good. And yeah, I mean, we have shots like this, you know, I mean, come on. But anyway, we're going to get into that in a minute here, actually. With Superheroes Decoded. By the way, these videos will be a lot less painful, and a lot better to go through than what we just went through.
Men must accept women as human beings and not sex objects.
While the 90s was a brighter time for male anti-heroes, it was a decidedly darker time for their female counterparts.
Here, I don't know how History Channel is with, like, copyright cucking, so give me a minute.
When you see the sexualization of female characters in mainstream superhero comics really take off is the 1990s, and there are a number of reasons for why it happened at that time. Most of the comic writers and artists are male, and also mostly white, and the fan base had become that in large part as well. You have the loosening of the Comics Code in 1989. It no longer banned suggestive posing of women or exaggerated female characteristics, and you have a backlash against feminism.
Since her allegations against Thomas were made public, she has received several threats.
It is worth having the truth emerge.
And when you put all of these elements together, you have hyper-muscular, hyper-athletic males, and you have hypersexualized females.
Fancy powers and big explosions and big toothpaste spreads and how big could you make the girl's boobs.
That was the worst time for women in comics, both as creators and as characters, and as readers, because what were women going to read? You know, if they open a comic and the picture is so insulting to them, they're not going to want to buy the comic.
The men were really roidy, the women were really busty, everyone's waist became thoroughly unnatural, and everyone was posing all the time. Any sort of sense of natural humanity was kind of lost at the expense of aggressive power.
When the women had breasts the size of their heads and that pose that is now called the Brokeback pose.
A woman's behind is facing you as the reader, but she is turned so that both of her upper body curves are facing you as well. And of course your back would have to be broken to pose like that in real life.
These guys were not looking at real women. They were drawing their own bizarre fantasies of what a woman should look like. And no woman ever looked like that.
Yeah, so the main thing is that the men didn't look like that either, guys. Like Rob Liefeld, who's famous for drawing or for coming up with Deadpool and stuff like that, he would draw these like super roided out dudes who were just like super buff, proportions were off with like their arms, their thighs, so everything. And here, let me just see. You know what? Here, let me find one of the best examples. I tried reading this series. Well, yeah, I started reading this series recently. Let me find. You always had these guys. You always had where the characters. Yeah. So this is actually pretty. Are we? Why does it gotta be? Come on, man. I'm trying to make a point. Why do you gotta be like that? And I have plenty of other tabs to show my point here too. That's what all these tabs are for. But we'll get to that. Rob and other characters or other artists like him had a tendency to draw just everybody very, I want to say off model, but these aren't, that wouldn't be the right way to phrase it. But like all of the dudes are super roided out, and actually in this case I would argue that the woman Vogue here is not super, I mean she's not scantily clad at least, everyone is always drawn wearing like skin tight outfits. Characters are basically naked and they're just like colored over, but like again that's how all of them are. But yeah, the dudes are always super ripped and all that, and the women are, yes, they are very much sexualized in different ways, especially in like kind of awkward poses and stuff, which we'll get to some examples of all that in a minute too. Maybe this is a good example. Not exactly. Okay, well in any case,
when you look in the 90s and you look at drawings of pencil-thin, super long-legged women wearing essentially underwear, and it seems like it's coming from men in order to titillate and in order to appeal to a younger audience just to give them a boner, then it sort of feels disingenuous.
Okay, so the first thing about this might come as no surprise to you as I say this. I have no problem with this in and of itself. My ultimate stance on this, as is in general with the male gaze and all that shit, is just eye candy is fine. Just have eye candy for women too, and you'll be all right. So we're going to go over a video here where this person actually responded as well. I really hope we can get English closed captionings. Good. And we're going to up the speed, of course. J. Scott Campbell responds to tweet about sexuality in comics.
I have a confession to make. I am a woman. And as a woman, I would like to speak on this subject. Now, granted, it's not the first time I've talked about sexuality in entertainment and the idea that people are pushing that it should be censored or that we shouldn't have sexy characters at all. It's this idea that's kind of been sold to us as fighting the patriarchy when really it's not doing anything. And I normally don't really like to talk about Twitter news because Twitter in general is just a bunch of weird people saying weird things all the time, so it doesn't really feel like news. But given that Scott Campbell kind of spoke out about this, I'll talk about it, I'll give my 2 cents. So this is the art that somebody had a problem with.
So this is a character named Medusa. Wait, this is the art someone had a problem with? What about the Mary Jane pose? Are we not going over that one? Did she not talk about the... I thought she talked about the Mary Jane pose. What? Maybe this is a different thing. Okay, I might have this. Maybe? Oh, well, whatever. It's still...
As you can see, it is Medusa,
applies.
and she does look quite attractive, despite being fully clothed, which I admit is usually difficult to do, which is why, comics adapted the skin-tight clothing, and this sparked this tweet. Now, it's not really the tweet.
That's not why. They just always drew them like that.
That's the problem. It's how many likes it got. It's the fact that this tweet went viral. That's very mind-boggling. Why would people be spreading this tweet, especially when it's from a lonely Twitter user with less followers than even I? Why would they be spreading this tweet? Well, because this is a hot take, ladies and gentlemen. This has the shock value needed to be spread on Twitter. So it says, again, men are trash and shouldn't be allowed to draw women. So the idea that the reason why she's drawn sexually is because a man drew her. And if it was a woman who drew her, it would have been done right. I think the funny part about this is she says men are trash and shouldn't be allowed to draw women. And then the follow-up tweet says, first, if you're offended by that and or say not all men, then you're part of the problem. Immediately after, says...
Now, I've talked about this before, right? I really hate the whole, people that are like, oh, if you have a problem with all men, then you're part of the problem. Like, no, just don't say all men. Just like don't say all women, don't say all any people, right? I wouldn't even say like, oh, all conservatives are like horrible. No, because like a lot of them are just misguided,
Second, most of my fave comic book artists are men. They actually draw women like, women. Oh, so I get it. So what you're saying is not all men. And the actual follow-up tweet is stupider
Fair point.
than the first tweet, in my opinion, just because she immediately just contradicts herself. But of course, when you are a low-level Twitter user who all of a sudden gets a very viral tweet, you're gonna want to follow up on that. You're gonna want to double down, like, yes, this is what's gonna get me known on Twitter. I better make a bunch of other stupid tweets, including one that immediately contradicts it. You see, at first I was thinking to myself, oh, well, she probably didn't actually mean, men are trash and it's because a man drew this that men shouldn't be actually not allowed to draw women. She probably just meant, oh, well, this is the problem that we have. We have men seeing women as sexual objects and drawing them this way, which is promoting the idea that women are sexual objects. But then she follows it up by saying, oh, and then if you say not all men, you're the problem. Also, I know that not all men do this. The follow-up tweet is so stupid, it blows my mind. But that's not the only follow-up that she made. She continued to make more stupid tweets. And this time, it's not a problem that the women are drawn sexually, but now it's about minors being drawn with boobs. She writes, these are all teenage girls, 15 to 17, drawn by the same grown-ass men. Can y'all see why women aren't comfortable with that? So, like, we have a fully...
So, okay. Yeah. Do I have the examples pulled up here? No, that's for the other thing we'll get to. Let's go back to Gen 13. Do we still have... Okay. Like I said, I really like Gen 13. And I do. I really do like Gen 13. I'm going to explain the problem that I have with Gen 13. First of all, again, no problem with the women or the dudes or anyone being drawn this way or any of this stuff. It's very stylized. It's very, like I said, and I'll get into more specifically later too, eye candy. Just equalize the eye candy, have eye candy for women too. And, that's a good reason to have women drawing them so that, it is eye candy for them. Anyway, I will make a case for people like, for one thing, I'll say that while there are people, the women in Gen 13 are, yes, drawn like this, which again, no problem with. The dudes are also drawn. Also, they're not both just super buff. Only one of them is here. That's kind of progress. But, oh my god, I can't remember his name right now. It's not important. But anyway, he is, also, shirtless, and he's pretty good looking dude, all that stuff, whatever, right? But here is my issue, right? But you could say in different ways he's kind of, sexualized, if you will. He's fitting the, ideal of like a, whatever. But this is what my issue is. There's an issue where, so this guy and this guy are dating. Or this guy and this girl are dating. There's an issue where they are all separated as a team. This is like, they become a team, briefly separate and get back together. So they go off on their separate ways, like they all do. And these two stick together. They go to Vegas. They go to gamble at Vegas. And there are multiple moments where this guy has to point out, I don't know, we're not even 18 yet. And that's not an issue in and of itself with this character being this way, looking this way, per se. But as much as I love this series from what I've read so far, it is an issue when you have plots like the one in this issue, where she is captured by pirates. Both of these guys are. They're captured by pirates, and she has to wear this outfit and cook and clean for them. She's not doing anything inherently sexual, but again, they've made a point to explain that she is not even 18 yet. And while she isn't inherently doing anything sexual, she is in a lot of positions and such, drawn in certain ways that are very sexualized. Now again, I will say, in the case of all entertainment, people will get on people's case about this for animated characters too, like say Ty Lee from Avatar: The Last Airbender, or Gwen from well, if it's child Gwen, then yeah, I'm gonna look at you sideways. But if it's like, teen and young adult Gwen from Alien Force, I get it. But people will have these, take issue with people who kind of thirst over these fictional characters. My thought on it is simply that if they're fictional and they're drawn, I really don't care. It doesn't say anything. I don't think it says anything about somebody because they like, attractive women, especially if it's like ones that they grew up with as a kid, or, they're clearly played by an adult or something like that. Like take adults always playing high school characters, right? Things like that, Now, I wish that we got to see a lot more, college age characters in these events rather than high school all the time. But it is what it is. However, I understand the uncomfortability that people would have with things like that. But again, can't recommend this series enough.
Clothed woman here. We have a, I guess, slightly revealing belly. Not super obscene boobs going on here. We have someone laying down. I guess there's a little...
Yeah, that character, Riri Williams, I know in the new Black Panther movie, she was like, well, she was an adult. She's like 15 to 16 in the... Oh, another problem. In Supergirl, or maybe it was Superman or Justice, whatever. Something with Supergirl in it. There were a lot of moments where she was very much sexualized, and throughout an entire issue, she had to keep telling everybody she's 16. And Green Lantern, Hal Jordan Green Lantern, kept hitting on her and kept being like, I'm 16. He's like, yeah, it makes it feel kind of bad. It's like, yeah, dude, you're a creep. Yeah.
A little bit of stomach shown at the bottom. And then another fully clothed woman. The idea behind this tweet is...
Now, I do think that the way this woman is covering this is disingenuous. Obviously, these women are drawn in a way to be, titillating in some way or another. But again, my thing is that it's not bad, right? It's fine. Acknowledge it. But again, give the eye candy for women too.
It's not a problem how they're clothed.
And gay people.
Or what position they're in. But what's the problem is they are matured. 16 to 17 girls don't look like that, mister. And then she has, more pictures where...
You're right. 16 to 17-year-olds don't look like that. I don't care what their age is in the comic, as long as it's either ignored or not constantly brought up. Fucking Hal Jordan. But yeah, if you want to thirst over people like this, I certainly would.
For the most part, fully clothed women who just have bodies. Ooh.
Will and do.
Crazy. For the record, the majority of 16 to 17-year-old girls do have boobs and hips.
That is true as well, though. Yeah, there are definitely... Everybody matures at different ages, and yeah.
I started growing mine when I was younger than 16 or 17. That started at, 11 for me. Anyway, so here's what Scott Campbell had to say about it, and he kind of shows her tweet. Doesn't show her profile, but just kind of points out how many people were actually liking and retweeting this, even though it was so stupid. He says, it's tempting to get discouraged by some of the negative comments on Twitter, but remember, even a comment as broad and incendiary as this one got nearly 30,000 likes and almost 5k retweets in just over a day. Hashtag a little perspective. He follows that up to say, just to clarify, I'm not down. I actually found this to be a mood booster because, again, it wasn't specific to me. Just a reminder that really...
I think he has Caitlin Fairchild as his icon. Caitlin Fairchild is... Oh, I don't know where she went. Oh, no. Okay. Oof, let's not fuck with the tabs too much. She's the tall redhead, the leader in Gen 13.
Dumb comments can get a lot of dumb people liking it. I mean, is there anything more ridiculous
and she is college age, by the way,
unreasonable than that comment, which is, men are trash and shouldn't be allowed to draw women? That is quite ridiculous and unreasonable. And then you get more hot takes like this, saying Scott Campbell draws underage women in gross, disgusting, sexualized way, but it's okay. It's just art. Why are you guys bullying me? So it's okay for men to muscular, but no woman can't have boobs? You guys are just jealous of them. I mean, it's true. You don't really hear any guys ever complaining that, having, muscular underage boys are a problem at all. It's also weird. Are we just...
Yeah, because it's not a problem. That's my whole thing with this, right? While, again, she's being a little disingenuous, it's not a problem, Just chill. Are we at the... Okay, whatever.
Supposed to pretend that teenage girls don't hit puberty? Are we just supposed to pretend that they don't have boobs or hips? Is that the appropriate way? Is that how you're not a pedophile? To just pretend it doesn't exist? The girls that they're naming are 16, it's always 16 to 17, right? 16, 17 girls, 15 to 17. I mean, if we're talking about an age where you start looking sexually attractive, I would say that's around the age. That's kind of why a lot of the states have the age of consent being 16, because a lot of teenagers start fucking at that age. It's almost like they've hit puberty or something. Comic book artists will draw female characters.
I'm not touching this one. I'm not right now. I think... Okay, the main thing that I'll say about age of consent is I definitely disagree with the people that think it should be raised. I also disagree with people that think it should be lowered, per se. I think that 18 is a good age because I think it should definitely be the age that you are typically done with school and living with your parents and are going out into the world. I'm aware there are people still in their 20s and 30s that live with their parents. That's a whole other thing. But, to put it simply, if you're old enough to vote and die for your country, you're old enough to fuck who you want.
Characters with their organs shoved in their titties and call it accurate and a part of my style. I hate men. Ooh, more hot takes. Now, what territory are we getting to with this one? Should we draw all characters and everything to always be realistic and have no art style? No art style. None at all. Not allowed to over-exaggerate anything. Well, then I kind of wonder, why don't you just watch live-action stuff? Why don't we just start taking pictures and putting them in the book and call it a comic? If we're not allowed to draw with an art style. I mean, they're showing us all these pictures. I really don't see anything wrong with all of the pictures that they're showing.
It's funny she says that, actually. Because... Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I love J. Scott Campbell's exclusive variant covers. He did my favorite... Oh, no, I have it there. We'll get to it. Damn it, spelled it wrong. Oh, there she is. Could choose any of these, I think. Did the first one have it? No, this is 2011. This wouldn't be it. You'll see what I'm getting at in a minute here. Maybe it was these ones. There were certain... I think they did this for Xena, the warrior princess, as well. But there were certain characters that they would get... Oh, yeah, here we go. Where they would actually have a model do the pose for covers as well. So this is just to illustrate that point of oh, well, here's a real person in place of these. It wasn't like a gotcha or something. It was just something that something they did. You know, they would take a model and they would have them dress as the character, and yeah. Anyway, back to this.
A lot of them are just fully clothed women too, and they're not even in lewd positions or anything. They're just most of the time standing around, maybe in.
I mean, you could argue like the way they're arched and the way their like ass is kind of out. Like, yeah, it's definitely not as like gratuitous, like gratuitous and off-putting as some of the stuff we're gonna get to, but it does exist.
Like some kind of pose, but even that pose is not like lewd. My advice to these Twitter girls: why don't you take a look at anime and manga, and then get back to me on how this is lewd. But anyway, like I said before,
fair dues. Also, again, I do agree with her point as well about like the way men are depicted is perfectly fine. And again, I think the way men are depicted, the way women are depicted, perfectly fine. Just give more eye candy for men too, or for women too.
Twitter is just full of.
Or a better way to say it even is, we have so much eye candy for people that appreciate the male form. While I don't want any of that to go away, obviously, I think that there needs to be more eye candy for people that appreciate the female form. Or no, other way around. We have so much for people that appreciate the female form. We need more eye candy for people that appreciate the male form.
A lot of dumb people who want to see a hashtag and hop onto the hashtag, and people who see, oh, my one tweet is getting a lot of likes, I guess I better keep on tweeting about that, because I want to be famous somewhere in life, and I sure as hell can't do it in the movies. I mean, I would say to a lot of people who have a problem with women being sexy in comics, a lot of people I would kind of turn to them and say, well, you think that's an unrealistic expectation, but what would you think if you actually saw a woman who looked like that? Well, what would you say to them? That they shouldn't look like that?
Well, they're not going to look like this exactly, but no, I mean, it is true that, yeah, there is definitely, there are times where people kind of get mad at them for being too, like, fitting beauty standards too much. This happens with dudes all the time too. A lot of times when dudes go through glow ups, they'll have other guys be like, oh, or especially if they're like really good with women, they'll be like, oh, he's just a fuckboy, he's just this, he's just that. Yeah, he gets results. He knows how to be attractive, take care of himself, and be attractive to women. And he's not necessarily a fuckboy. He could be, but he could also just be someone who knows what he's doing. You know, similar with how a lot of women will slut shame other women that'll like dress more provocatively or be more, you know, just free, you know, with themselves and their sexuality and stuff in general. Oh, she's just a slut. She's just this. She's just that. It's like, chill. Just let people be, you know?
Look too lewd. Another thing with the unrealistic expectations argument is people just assume this is an expectation for them and not just an art style that somebody is using over-exaggeration to...
Yeah, that's true. Because even if you see, like, cosplay of these characters, right? So we can see that's, well, it's Medusa, but it's... Here, we're gonna do... So, like, you see that image of her. And then, even if you have people cosplaying, like, no one's gonna think... Okay, there's not actually very many cosplays of her. That's a bit surprising. That's okay. We're gonna talk about cosplay more in a bit. We'll get to that.
Imitate real-life things. If you don't have giant titties, it's not your fault. And you shouldn't chastise other people for having giant titties just because you don't have them. And I would say that a lot of women who complain about sexy characters in comics or in cartoons, a lot of them are, in a way, insecure about themselves, and that's why they feel like it's an expectation for them, because they know
It is true that a lot of people will try to, like, pull other people down because they're jealous. That does happen.
They don't got that. Because a lot of women are holding themselves to a standard that they know that they'll never be able to reach, and so instead of trying to change themselves, they instead blame the world for their insecurities. They suggest that, oh well, if only a man hadn't drawn this, I wouldn't be reminded about how insecure I am about my body. It doesn't matter what reminds you about how insecure you are about your body. You gotta fix the problem at its source. And you know, I think another thing that people don't really account for when they talk about this subject is that it's not just men who like to see sexy women on the comic book. It's not just men who like to see them on the TV.
People like things that are aesthetically pleasing, 100%.
Magazines, everyone likes to see visually attractive people in their medium, in their entertainment.
Yes.
Even I would prefer to see a sexualized women on the screen than I would see the swamp monster on the screen. I'll take them titties, thank you. Anyway, I've already made videos about sexualization and...
What if you're reading Swamp Thing? I think you'd want a swamp monster then.
Comics and in entertainment, and you can watch those videos if you like. I don't think it's feminist, I don't think it's smashing the patriarchy to suggest that sexualized women shouldn't exist, or shouldn't be drawn.
I think that's very childish, honestly. And you could not sell me on that idea, even if it was for free. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, what you think about this Twitter, these little Twitter fights that go on, what you think about sexy characters in comics. Should they all be censored? Should they all be taken out? Should men not be allowed to draw women anymore? Should women only draw women, men only draw men? Let me know what you think. Like the video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Program restart.
Right. Okay, so like I said, don't have a problem with most of this. But I'm going to show some examples, and we're going to go through this here. Some examples of where it can be a bit much. So I talked before about... I keep making them go away. So I talked before about how much I actually really liked... So far I've only read the miniseries, but I actually really liked Danger Girl. Basically, it's like hot female James Bond age, which I guess hot doesn't even need to be included because James Bond's hot too. So female James Bond agents, pretty cool. So, okay, first of all, drawn by J. Scott Campbell, written by J. Scott Campbell, from what I understand. Yes, we can all see the way they're depicted, the way they're drawn. They're very sexy. They're very, appreciating to the eye, especially for people that like the female form, like myself. But once again, actually really well written. At least to me. I don't know. Like, maybe I don't ask for much with these things, but yeah, very, very well written. But there are some things where it's a bit over the top even to me. Like, I don't think these things, in and of themselves, the way they're drawn, the way they're posed, and these are just the covers, by the way. This isn't even the actual content, right? But I don't think any of this is inherently bad, problematic, anything. But this is a little off-putting. We have the main characters here gearing up for battle. We have, I think her name's Natalia, putting a knife, in her holster. And we have I'm going to say this in terms of like a movie camera because that's how I understand it. But we have her with the camera, the view up at her, kind of her abs and her tits a little bit. And then we have, I can't remember this girl's name. I just read these comics like a week ago or two or whatever. Anyway, we have this chick where, you know what? Wait. Let me just... Oh, and then we have like also the variant comics. Yeah, like clearly, she's posing with her ass out. Where was it? What's her name? Sydney Sage. Okay. So we have Sydney with a rope. And again, the shot is kind of, down at her chest, down at her tits. And then we have Abby here putting a gun in her holster. And again, shots kind of, at her ass. Now, I don't have an issue with any of these things in and of themselves. But this is what I'm talking about. All the women are depicted this way. Again, I appreciate it. But there's a man who's not officially on the team, but he works with them throughout this miniseries at least. Can't remember his name either. Oh, shit, where is he? Oh, no, well, this is the first one here. What was his name? This is a pretty good variant. I didn't even see some of these variants when I was reading through it. In any case, who's the guy? Oh, Johnny Barracuda. So, Johnny Barracuda's like this cool, kind of whatever dude, right? He gets with Sydney. They were exes in the beginning, and they actually get back together. Spoilers for a comic from the 90s. But anyway, we have him. And look at his pose. Does he get a close-up? I mean, you could argue that, all right, well, he's kind of flexing his muscles, but you can see what I mean here, right? Where nothing's really being accentuated, nothing's really kind of focusing on anything that sexualizes him. And I think that is a crime. Because I think men should be sexualized more. That's my take, right? I've talked about this before, but like, put eye candy for people that like women as well, people that like men as well. I mean, the male form, because we have things like this, and this is okay. I can kind of give this a pass, right? Then we have this, right, which is Sydney zipping up her jumpsuit, and that's fine. But come on, dude. Like, what was this necessary? No. Do I appreciate it? Yes. But come on. Now, this is where it gets really off-putting. Oh, okay, so we have the guy I was talking about, right? Johnny Barracuda. Even his introduction. He comes in, we have the main character, Abby Chase, swooning over him, imagining being with him because he's like a hot dude and shit. And we have, I think, do I have the next panel here? No. But the women are like swooning all over him. We can even see it here, like all the girls, oh, look, it's Johnny Barracuda, you know what I mean? So, like, he's very much that kind of person, you know? And that's fine. But again, where is the love for him? Where is the accentuation, the sexualization for him? Where is it? It's not here. Now, this is where it gets to be a bit much, right? This is where it's a bit off-putting. There is no reason for Abby to be bent over like this. There just isn't. Took me out of it for a second when I was like, oh, that's odd. Why is she, like, it doesn't ruin it for me. It's not like, this is horrible, and it's, but it's off-putting. You know what I mean? It's like, really? Come on. Like, what is this about? And then we have, in the next panel, literally, I'm pretty sure this is literally the next panel. The way this is shot, where we have, again, her ass, it's not like super in focus, but you get it, right? But here, we have this schlubby dude, right? And he's not, you know, we can have a schlubby dude, but again, I appreciate it, but where's the stuff with this guy? The cool, muscular, like, you know what I mean? Like, where is the stuff, where's the eye candy for the women? I'm speaking broad. Oh, kind of have it here, right? We don't technically need this shot where he is, you know, shirtless and all that stuff, right? We don't technically need it. But, you know, this is an example of the kind of thing I'm talking about. Have the eye candy for women too. We have things like this. What is the reason for this woman to be here and not even her face is showing? She's just here to be sexy, which is fine. But put the eye candy for the people that like the male form as well. With this, what's the point of this? Right? Like, this is fine. This is, you know, these are possible examples of what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like, rippling back muscles, you know what I mean? Like, all this shit, rippling muscles in general. Here's an example of a man being more scantily clad. This is Hercules in the 1987 Wonder Woman series. And now he is actually wearing something under. He's wearing a loincloth of some sort. But, you know, I think... Oh, and I have another example for this later, too, with him. I approve of and appreciate the sexualization of the female form in general, as a man that very much likes women and very much appreciates the female form. I think it's great, but just do the eye candy for people that like the male form as well. I think that is a big thing that would help a lot of people with understanding each other. A lot of men and women with understanding each other. A lot of men and women with, you know, women being encouraged to view men as not sexual objects but sexual creatures, and, you know, approaching men more. You know, things like that. All kind of different things. And I will also very much say, and I hold by this as well. If you do have an issue with, like, you have to objectify somebody to find them sexually attractive, you have a problem with sex, and you have a problem with women or whoever it is you're objectifying. Because sexualization is not objectification. I can view these characters and appreciate them for their beauty and their sexuality, or like this character, what's her name again? Blacklight. I can appreciate characters like this. Just do the eye candy for the people that like the male form too. And here, we can go ahead and close all these actually now. I wouldn't be so pissed if I want to go back to them later. I'll be like, no. We'll leave that one. Here's the issue I have, though, with Blacklight. Remember how I talked about with Supergirl and stuff like that, right? So we have this thing where she gets these powers. She transforms into her form, her suit. And immediately, where did this costume come from? They can probably see my boobs. She doesn't like it. She's immediately trying to cover up. So, my stance on this, do I have an issue with characters being drawn like this and wearing costumes like this at all? Absolutely not. Please, I encourage it. However, don't make them uncomfortable about it. A cool thing about Power Girl is that for her, it's very much a part of her feminism and her femininity and her like embracing her sexuality and stuff. And that's great. But don't make them super reserved like this, where they don't like it. You know, it kind of goes back to how we've talked about before. Like, I don't understand how people can, you know, enjoy having sex with somebody that isn't enjoying it themselves. Well, it's the same thing with this. When I saw this panel, I was like, really? Come on. Now, luckily, it's not like brought up again, and she's not like, oh, this is horrible. I wish I had a different costume. Nothing like that. But it, you know, it kind of took me out of it for a minute. And I was like, come on. Why did we need that? Why couldn't she just enjoy, you know, have them either embrace it or have them not acknowledge it at all? Now, we're going to talk about something else. I love Spider-Man. I'm even wearing a Spider-Man shirt right now. Here, see, there you go. You can see wearing. I actually. Anyway, love Spider-Man. Also really like the black suit, as I have as my little tag thing on Reddit. But anyway, we're gonna talk about. Wait, are we okay? So we're done with these. We'll leave that for a minute. I might go back to that. Okay. So this is posted on Reddit, on the Spider-Man subreddit. It's a great scene. This is back when Peter was actually allowed to be married to Mary Jane. And first of all, look at that face. That is wild. Alarm goes off. He's like, oh, God. So, you know, she's like, oh, you're back. You know, didn't hear you come in. Rise and shine, lover. Daylight in the swamp. Oh, did my poor Peter have a rough night? He's like, could I like just lie here a while, like 2 or 3 days? You know, he clearly got back from a night of superheroing and shit. And you know, no way, Jose, not with our cash flow. You're due at the Daily Bugle, remember? Okay, bring on the hot coffee, Diet Cola, mentholated shave cream, whatever that means. Anything to get me up. Believe it, husband, I can do better than that. And clearly, they're gonna fuck, which is beautiful. I love it. And I wrote a thing about this because it actually meant a lot to me. So I have to say, the relationship these two had meant a lot to me because growing up, it was really the only healthy one I knew. I grew up with parents that couldn't go more than a few weeks without having screaming matches where I would lock myself in my room and listen in while mainly trying to distract myself with TV and such. The only other marriages I knew were the ones in sitcoms where they still basically hated each other and would always complain about each other to their friends, etc. Home Improvement, I'm looking at you. When I started reading the comics, a big draw was their marriage, and since I started shortly after One More Day, horrible, horrible story. We're not getting into that here, though. It kind of turned me off of comics altogether for years. I love their marriage in the comics. They're extremely supportive of each other, incredibly kind and loving, and have a very healthy and active sex life. Comic MJ was my awakening for that, and many other reasons. I still remember the exact panel, but can never remember the issue. All I know is it's from like 2005, where he gets home after a day of fighting Rhino, ending with a silhouette of MJ on top. Something changed in me that day. That is the reason... We're not going to get into that, actually. No, we will. Fuck it. It's the reason that cowgirl is my favorite position. Anyway, moving forward. Anyway, I'm going on, but my point is, I loved their relationship and how healthy they were with each other. It was and still is everything I want in my own relationship someday, maybe even marriage. This is the best era of Spidey and especially Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson Parker. Yeah. Those that are not Spider-Man fans and or aren't aware of the comics. In 2007, they separated Peter and MJ over the dumbest thing of Peter making a deal with the literal devil. And we've never recovered. We've never recovered. They keep teasing us. So, going back to our boy Scott Campbell and his variants, he actually did my favorite rendition of Spider-Man and Mary Jane. I gotta flip myself again here. Two of me. That was one. I really love this image of Spider-Man just holding Mary Jane in his arms like that. And the one with the black suit. There's even one with Venom holding Black Cat like that. Fun fact, by the way, right now, time of recording, Black Cat and Peter are actually dating. Although, yeah, they are. We also have, I really like this one too. MJ's even in her classic face the tiger, you just hit the jackpot attire. We have one with Miles and Gwen. Hell yeah, love that. Love to see it. All this. I think this is really cool. This is really cute. And I would argue none of this is like over-sexualizing these characters. You could say it's, it's kind of cute and sexy and flirty the way that they're like standing or the way that the girl like has her legs out and stuff, or and I say the girl because like with each one, you know what I mean? But so what? Again, sexualizing somebody and viewing somebody as a sexual creature is not the same as a sexual object. And if you can't tell the difference, I think you have issues. So, we're going back to this girl because we're going back to a famous issue, and you'll see why in a minute.
Egad, someone out there is fixing more art, and this time they're fixing Mary Jane. This was apparently originally a Tumblr post, but it got shared on Twitter, and
really?
And
okay. So we can see, by the way, of course you have... Oh, wait, let me fix myself. Okay. So we can see, this is the way Mary Jane was originally drawn. This is their fix. And a lot of times these fixes really just come down to, I don't like that, like how sexy you made her, so I'm gonna like de-sexify her. Strongly disagree with that notion, by the way, of like de-sexifying really women in general, fictional women, etc. But yeah,
it got shared a lot.
Just be respectful about it. Like, there's nothing gross or objectifying about the way that she is here or anything. We'll get to it
on Twitter. Basically what we see here is an edited version of J. Scott Campbell's Mary Jane cover, which I might add looks quite nice. And this non-binary Finn Mertens fixed it by making it less attractive, because attractive women deserve to die. Now, a lot of us artists, especially people who are into comics, know that art fixers are probably the most toxic part of the art community. And there are two types of art fixers out there. First, there's the unknown artist, who seeks to trash popular artists in order to gain traction, so that they themselves will become better known. Because nothing gets you better known online than drama, and usually these people will redraw a character that someone else drew, trash the artist, and put a link for their Ko-Fi somewhere in there. And then there's the other type, who just takes somebody else's art and edit it on Photoshop in order to fix it. These people are typically not artists themselves, and don't have anything to gain by starting drama online. They just like the thrill of getting noticed. They're essentially art trolls. To some extent, I can sort of understand the unknown artist using someone else's name to get noticed, but for someone who isn't even an artist, just editing other people's art, they're especially weird. Now, this is one of those people who just took someone else's art and edited it. I don't know if they are an actual artist themselves. I made an attempt at fixing this because it was so bad, lol. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was, so that's all that matters, lol. I would like to point out that people who say LOL every other sentence are usually using a mask to hide their true pain. Just don't look too close.
As somebody who used to do that a lot more frequently, yeah, very true.
At it, it's fine. No comma for the actual.
Same with the laughing emojis. Anyone that's constantly saying LOL or using laughing emojis, they're probably insecure about something. They're doing the equivalent of like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we like went out? You know what I mean? That kind of shit. It's super not. Yeah, it's not good.
place that should have commas, grammatical errors, and comma, may as well tag at fixing bad comic art, since their blog is mainly what inspired me to do this. Yeah. So this person in particular follows a blog that focuses on fixing bad comic art, which I assume made them think that this was a popular thing to do, or this was a morally good thing to do, as a lot of people who go out of their way to fix bad art usually try to take the moral high ground. Because the thing about fixing art is, it's not just that you're pointing at an art piece and saying, I do not like how they drew this. This is not a art style that I find pleasing to my eyes. But instead you're saying, not only is this drawing bad, but the person who drew it is bad. Yes, not only is this a terrible drawing, but I am morally superior to the person who drew it. And I am also a better artist than the person who drew it. I am such an amazing person and artist. Follow me! Because it's not really about the art. It's not really about the artist who drew it. It's about themselves. And basically what this non-binary person did is they attempted to make Mary Jane less sexy in their version. They made the shirt a little bit higher, blurred out the cleavage, made the boobs a little...
Oh, by the way, just to be clear, they didn't make her less sexy. Like, she's still very attractive here. You know what I mean? Like, but that was the attempt, right? They're like, oh, she's too, you know, it's unrealistic, whatever. First of all, so what? But also, she's still hot. You know, she's still the amazing wife. Not gonna let that go. Anyway.
Less defined, and the shirt bigger but also have no wrinkles. Her arms are bent forward instead of holding them close to herself. For some reason they put her knee down, because sitting like this is apparently too sexual. Can't sit like this. It's too sexy. Yeah, she made sure to put the leg down, because that's...
By the way, I'm a dude and I sit like that. I like sit on my knee or on my leg behind me a lot. I think you know what I mean by that.
A really obvious fetish, but she kept the bare foot in, so don't worry. Now look, obviously there's nothing wrong with the original art piece. I like J. Scott Campbell. I think that he's a good artist. I think that he's very exaggerated and he's very good at drawing attractive women. I think he has very interesting poses, but people really rag on him a lot when it comes to how he chooses to draw women, because I guess exaggerating curves is bad. I mean, isn't the whole point of art to exaggerate? But no, you can't have fun as an artist. Just can't do that. So here's the thing about this art fix. He actually responded to it on his Twitter. He tweeted out this, 4-page response with a tweet that said the fix is in and a little artist emoji. And what he says is, over the weekend, a famous cover of mine featuring MJ from Spider-Man got a lot of attention again when it became circulating on Tumblr. You see, someone going by the name non-binary Finn Mertens took to fixing the artwork, as they put it, and well, that got a lot of people talking. Now, typically I just ignore this sort of thing, but it seemed to go a bit viral. Even friends and colleagues reposting it, explaining that this sort of correcting of other well-established artists is just, well, tacky, which it is. In light of this, though, I decided to embrace this situation and do a bit of art fixing myself. What do you think? Seems trendy, so you get where this is going, right? He actually took to criticizing the art fix and the mistakes that were made during the editing, and redrawing his own version of MJ in that pose, basically fixing the art fix. Now, the purpose of this post is basically just to give this person a taste of their own medicine. You can already tell by the first post that this person is a little bit insecure about releasing their edited version of the MJ cover. They go on to say, it's not perfect, but it's better than, so that's all that matters to me. I made an attempt at fixing it, just don't look too closely, it's fine. It sounds like they're pretty insecure. And he basically pointed this out. He said, hey, if you're insecure about people critiquing your edits, why do you lack so much compassion when it comes to not editing someone else's work?
Oh, I think he redid it, but in her style, with her pose. That's kind of nice.
The first place. Like, why didn't you consider that this artist that you were mocking also had feelings? And I think with the internet, it's kind of funny because people treat each other like they have hierarchies based on followers. So at some point, J. Scott Campbell became too famous to be a person anymore. Basically, you're too famous to be treated like a human being. I get to hold you to a way higher standard than I would hold any other...
It is true, the way a lot of people treat anybody in, the public eye is very dehumanizing, which, by the way, I would say is a type of objectification, because ultimately, objectification is about, dehumanizing and stuff like that, and again, I think you should be able to appreciate somebody for what they can, provide you in any type of relationship while still appreciating them as a person. And even if that is somebody, man, woman, whatever, that you only view, because you think they're hot or you want to have sex with them or whatever, you can do that and still value their humanity. You don't have to objectify in order to sexualize. So anyway.
They're human beings. I think we should treat everyone as human beings who can make mistakes, and I do agree with the sentiment that he is giving here. He is spitefully fixing the art fix in order to just prove that their edit is not necessarily better, that they're clearly not an experienced artist, and they shouldn't be so quick to trash talk other artists. And the idea is he's sarcastically saying, oh yeah, it's so fun to give other artists unsolicited edits and advice. Now, I'm not sure how viral this original post went. I do know that people were mostly sharing it just because J. Scott Campbell is such a famous artist, and because anytime there's a dumb art fix, people talk about it on Twitter. I will say, though, a lot of people might look at this response and think that it makes, J. Scott Campbell look weak for having having to respond to this nobody Photoshop editor. I do understand the concept of defending yourself online, but in this case, it really is like a machine gun versus a butter knife. But it's like what I said before. People think that when you reach a certain amount of fame, that you're just not a person anymore. You're held to a higher standard, and therefore all the other real human beings can dunk on you all they want, but you can't fight back. So I can understand the frustration behind that also. The original critique by NB is of the male gaze present in your first illustration. What's being discussed are the political implications of your stylistic choices. To which he actually has a pretty good response to. He says, I'm saying this as politely as I can. This internet crit lingo, the male gaze, is maybe one of the most head-scratching arguments I've ever heard. You better believe I want gazing of my art, long, affectionate gazing from both men and women. I'm a commercial artist. When you're making art, the point is to make it visually pleasing, whether that be for men or women. So getting back to this, this idea of art fixes, it's very lowbrow. And if you haven't realized it by now, you
Again, my answer to the male gaze, just do the female gaze, or whatever you want to call it. Just do eye candy. Just do eye candy for everybody. I don't think it's that hard. I really don't.
You must be out of the loop. You must be following only blogs like @FixingBadComicArt. Because basically, yeah, every artist I know is against this art fix craze because it's just fucking rude. You can say you don't like somebody's art, but purposely putting down an artist so that you can climb further up the social ladder just makes you a selfish douche. There's so many other better ways for you to get noticed online besides putting down other people. For example, redraw.
Yeah, you can react to these kind of videos.
Which are not to be confused with art fixes. Remember the Sailor Moon redraw where everyone was redrawing that one frame from Sailor Moon and doing their own spin on it? Redraws don't talk down to an artist, nor are they just simple edits that you could have done on Photoshop. They're actually an artist showing off their skills by redrawing a scene and being respectful to the source material. I would much rather have more redraws and less art fixes. So can we all stop with this nonsense? But let me know what you think about this Mary Jane art fix, what you think about the...
That's true. Comic artists often will do homages to other comic covers that have come before as well.
Original Mary Jane. Did it need to be edited? And what do you think about J. Scott Campbell's response to all of this? Do you think he went a little bit too personal? Do you think it was reasonable? Any and all thoughts you have regarding this situation, do let me know down in the comments below. And for those of you wondering, yes,
It definitely wasn't personal. He only attacked their art. He didn't attack them as a person or anything like that. So it definitely wasn't too personal. But here's my favorite thing about that, because that whole debacle was in... Wait, actually, that was last year. Yeah, 2021. Well, or 20... Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, it happened in 2021. Here's the thing about that specific issue, right? First of all, that cosplay, or that cover, has been done in different ways. Oh, here, I have to move this again. So that cosplay has been done by, or that type of like pose and everything has been done by other... This is the kind of way that I said sometimes, that's what I meant. Has been done by other artists, or has been done by cosplayers. Really, really well, by the way. Like, really well done. Plenty of cosplayers, plenty of people, we can get a bit too, too scared of some of this stuff, but plenty of people have redone this concept, this idea. And yeah, it works perfectly well, perfectly fine. Like I was saying before about women actually liking comics, and a lot of them being pretty attractive. That's why you see so many like cosplayers and stuff. But yeah. My favorite thing though about it, that comic cover is from a series, an arc in the Spider-Man comic series entitled Red-Headed Stranger. So like I said, in 2007, they had to break up, because of the devil, because of Joe Quesada, the real devil. And you'll notice the year 2009. Why was this dredged up years later, more than a decade later, to critique and be like, oh, they shouldn't have drawn Mary Jane like that. Like, you know what I mean? It was ridiculous. But yeah, so it is what it is. I don't actually know why I had this up. Oh, because I was going to talk about, yeah, they were married and then all this stuff. Yeah, so anyway. That was it. Moving on. Okay. Now, what did I say about appreciating, having stuff that appreciates the male and female gaze, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean. Eye candy for the male and female form. This comic was released in 2011. 100 Sexiest Women in Comics. Now, I will tell you, I used this list and this incredible guide that somebody used where they actually took all the characters and made them links you could click. I used this list for a lot of this, for finding a lot of these characters. 100%. Because a large part of what got me into a lot of these comics was the hot women and how they're drawn and stylized and all these different things. Now, I notice not much diversity here. Most of the women are white. I mean, some of them are, fake colors. You're not going to find a green person in real life. But oh, look, they gave Supergirl pants. By the way, people got really mad when people like Supergirl or Wonder Woman got pants at one point. I thought it was so dumb because, like, for one, the characters still look hot. You know what I mean? Like with pants or what have you. They don't have to be wearing a bikini. Like they can wear pants and still be sexy. You see sexy women in pants all the time. You see sexy people. Like, you don't have to wear next to nothing in order to be sexy. But anyway. So, yeah, 100%. I use this list. And you'll notice, though, hardly any women who aren't white, except for, like, Storm and characters like that. But, I mean, and that's a bit weird. It's a bit... But, oh, for some reason I thought Aspen Matthews was the number one. She's not. It's Red Sonja. Well, in any case, yeah. So I think that it is a good list. But again, what I would like to see in response to this, although I don't think was this by Wizard? No, Kraus Public. I don't even know what Kraus is. They only made 2 comics. They made one about the X-Men movie, and they made one about this Sexiest Women in Comics. Again, love it. Comics by our guide. You know what would have been great to see as a response, though? A follow-up? 100 Sexiest Men in Comics. I'm telling you, just do the same thing. It's like, there was this thing where women were talking about female-friendly, again, we're going to say adult entertainment. And how there's a lot of this, like, POV stuff, but it's always from the guy's POV, right? It's always from the guy's, perspective with a lot of these things. And it's very much there, for the guy, so to speak. And what people found after making it and having women consume it especially, is that what women really look for is the same thing that guys look for. They want the fantasy of having sex with somebody that they are physically attracted to as well. So when you had, like, POV adult entertainment, and it was things like Eye on the Guy, I think one was literally just called Her Point of View, different things like that. What they saw was that, yeah, women tended to like this stuff a lot, because why the hell wouldn't they? Again, the idea that women are not visual and men are visual is just complete bullshit. Women like hot dudes. Women like hot girls if they're lesbian. Women like hot people, like hot people. People like people who are aesthetically pleasing. Like, So again, nothing wrong with this, but come on. Where is it for the people that like the female form? Or the male form, I mean. I keep doing that. So, Marvel and a couple other things did this for a while, where they would have these swimsuit issues, where characters would just be drawn in these ways, where they'd be in swimsuits and they'd all be doing different things. It's funny that, Iron Man is in his Iron Man suit. But, again, I don't have anything wrong with this inherently. But, and I think this is kind of what I'm talking about. Because we have we obviously have the women in their swimsuits, but we also have the dudes who are all, muscular, good-looking dudes in their swimsuits. And I want to be clear about this too. If women in general do want something different, and they're like, oh, well, that's not what women like, fine. All the more reason, as we'll get to later, why women in comics, women in entertainment in general, making content that they like is good and important. Here's another example of the swimsuit stuff with the X-Men characters. You know, we got people like Wolverine and Cyclops here, wearing, you know, pretty much nothing. And this is cool, this thing of Cyclops flexing. And I think that's Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat, or maybe it's Jubilee, I'm not sure. Although, I don't know. I'm not as familiar with the X-Men. I'll get there. You know, you could make an argument for, oh, well, the way Rogues pose or the way Storms pose. Sure, but like, you know, the dudes, they're looking pretty good too. They're kind of, you know, flexing a bit and stuff. This is actually from the magazine, the swimsuit issue thing. I don't know what character this is, but oh, Black Panther, T'Challa Khan, or T'Challa. What's his last name? I don't remember. Anyway, good-looking dude, doing a sexy pose, doing a sexy thing, abs showing, pecs, you know, muscles, thighs, everything, right? Do more of this. Okay, we'll just say, you know, well, actually here. This is fine. Just have things like this too. And again, if this isn't what women actually want for whatever reason, then, or this, you know, just do this as well. Yeah, sure, have the scantily clad women if you want. Just have scantily clad men too. Just have things that are there for people that appreciate the male form as well as the female form. That's why it's such an issue, because there's such an imbalance. Just do a balance. I don't want to see characters becoming less hot or anything. No, like, don't desexify characters. Just do the male gaze or whatever you want to call it for people that like the male form as well. And if that's not what women actually want, that's why it's so important to also have, where are we? Women actually in comics, making them behind the scenes.
So you came up through comics in a time where it was a lot harder for female artists and creators, which we could pretty much apply to a bunch of different industries.
Right.
How has that changed? Do you feel like it's better now, or do you feel like there's still some improvements that need to be made?
There are many improvements that need to be made, even as it is much better now. The bar to entry is very low. Anybody can get in comics right now. You can start a webcomic, and congratulations, you're a cartoonist. But as for women getting in comics, it was very, very difficult back then. I'd go to shows where I'd be the only girl at the show, which is not an exaggeration, and it's not exceptional woman syndrome. I mean, it's literally, you go to a show, you'd be the only girl there. And people looked at you funny, and you know, the attitude was girls can't draw comics. And I actually heard from male editors that women are not visual, which is why women don't like porn. Therefore, yeah, I got news for them.
No, so much to unpack right there. So much
yeah. See, they're like, really? Like, that's fucking bullshit. Yeah, exactly.
But I swear to God, I heard this, and from more than one editor, that women can't draw because women are not visual. And because they're not visual, they can't process visually, they can't tell a story. And this is why girls don't like comics. And it was completely us. It was nuts. And we heard it over and over and over, and it just drove you up the wall. And now there are lots of girls in comics. It's still a fairly low percentage, but it's much easier to get.
By the way, this is also why it's important, guys. Any guys that are watching, whatever. This is also why it's important for guys to take care of their appearance and be good looking themselves. I've said time and time before, if you want somebody who you are physically attracted to, and you like conventionally attractive people, make yourself that way. Like, yeah, because as they even laugh at the idea women aren't visual, yeah, they are. The only reason the idea that women aren't visual is because there's a lot of schlubby dudes with hot chicks, and they kind of have to, you know, accept, like, oh, well, you know, I'm not really physically attracted to him, but he does do this and that, and he makes me laugh, and it's like, come on, man.
Get in. The unfortunate thing is that social media has made it really easy to harass girls. You've seen stuff happening with women in gaming. Well, same thing happens with women in comics, and it can get pretty rough. And you need to have a very thick skin. And of course, in fandom, girls attack each other too. It can get pretty nasty out there. And can't we all get along and draw our stuff and write our stories? And not necessarily. People can get pretty competitive, but just gotta stick it out.
So Marie Severin, she's a close friend of yours. She's a pioneer in the comics industry.
Yeah.
How did you two become close?
I wouldn't say that we're super close. I would say that she is a great inspiration, and she was one of the few women working in comics when I got into comics. There have always been women in comics. People like to say there was no one around, but not only was she around, but she was very important at Marvel while I was growing up, and she was the acting art director of Marvel. Which a lot of
What character was this, or person?
Gotta stick it out.
So Marie Severin, she's a close friend.
Marie Severin. I don't know who that is.
She was a draftsman, she was an inker, and she was tough. I remember she was really tough on me when I got started. And I walked in the door at Marvel Comics, like, whose girlfriend are you? That's the way it was back then. If you were trying to get into comics, you were probably somebody's wife or girlfriend. So she really, punched me in the jaw, and she's like, do you deserve to be here? And I was like, excuse me. I was pretty wigged out. And eventually I won her respect, and that was so important to me because she's so good and so underrated for so many years. It was hard to get the top jobs when you were a woman back then. You generally got shunted aside, or maybe didn't get the regular jobs that you might have wanted to get. And Marie had all the stuff. She could do anything.
Female artists would get bad inkers. That was obviously intentional on some level?
I think it was intentional for the most part. First of all, the A-list artists get the A-list talent to work with them, and if you were D-list, you get the D-list talent. So you wouldn't necessarily get a chance to show how good you were, and even if you turned in the best pencils ever, what you got out from the other end after a bad inker cranked them out in a week, you got a really bad looking book, and the fans would go, see, women can't draw comics. The art would look bad. So that would just perpetuate the stereotype of women not being very good at comics. I stopped working with inkers. I just said, no more, I will not work with them anymore, and I haven't worked with an inker in the better part of 15 years because I got tired of this. And it was the best decision I ever made because now nobody even bothers to ask. I get, they even let me color my own work sometimes. I just got finished coloring some stuff for American Gods, Neil Gaiman. Back in the day, they wouldn't let me near my stuff, and now they're like, hey, let her do whatever she wants. I'm like, oh, it's lovely jazz hands. So
what's a piece of advice you think every up-and-coming or aspiring?
When you let artists create like this, you let them just do what they want and make what they want, you will have good products. When you have the creators being so... This is why diversity in the workplace is important. When you have all men, all straight, white, cis, het men that are making comics, yes, it is very easy for them to turn into what they became. And again, I have nothing wrong with that. But you add the women, and you get to have different things. You get to have different stories, and you get to have different characters and different depictions of characters. Something that I think is really cool, going back to Danger Girl. Oh, I bet I made it go away. I didn't. Okay, cool. In the first issue and the issue 0, because issue 1 includes half of issue 0 as well. The character... Do we have the villain? We don't have the villain here, okay. But the character Abby Chase, this one, is... Basically, she's a treasure hunter. She's on an island. She gets kidnapped by this dude. And the dude is being super creepy. Like, he thinks he's all suave and cool, but he's being very, very predatory toward her. Now, as I understand it, they're all adults in this, so it's, we're not having that discussion again. But he's the bad guy, and he's depicted as the bad guy. She gets away from him by kicking him in the balls, and the audience is seen to, see as well that this guy who's being a total creep to her is the bad guy. Like, this is not what you're supposed to emulate. This is not a good thing. These are the bad guys. So I think that's actually a really cool thing as well.
Female artists should hear.
You need to have your inner compass pointing true north. Validation is great. Everybody loves it. But if you're continually seeking external validation, you're going to continually be disappointed. You're always going to run into people who don't like your work. You're always going to run into people who say unkind things.
That is true. As an artist and as anybody, yes, validation, external validation is good, but you have to have internal validation as well. God, all of these people, this is Colleen Doran, all of these people that are talking about this stuff, they're just, they're right. They get it.
Run into people who are sexist, and if you don't have your mess together from the inside out, it will kill your art. It will poison it, and you will begin to associate bad things and bad feelings with making art itself, which should be a wonderful thing and a positive thing. So remember why you were doing it in the first place, not for things out there, but for things inside, and that should help you no matter what happens.
That was good. God damn. Yeah, that was really, really good. So I've talked about this a few times, many times actually. Have the eye candy for people that appreciate the male form as well. Let's look at some more examples of what I'm talking about. In the 80s, a lot of dudes were wearing crop tops, including in the comics. We have Wolverine wearing a crop top. We have Eddie Brock wearing a crop top. And we have my favorite, Peter Parker wearing a crop top and short shorts. I would love to return to a time where men could dress like this without, not return to a time. I would love for us to be at a point where men could dress like this without being thought of as gay. I would like to dress like this. Yeah. I don't, because I'm not gay and I don't want people to think that I am. I have that struggle enough. But, or I've had that struggle. Anyway. I mean, I've had people think that anyway. Look at this. Look at this shit. Thanks for sending me that Peter Parker gem. Yeah, look at this shit, right? And this is on Tumblr, by the way. Crop tops. Let's fucking go. Do it. Please. Sexualize men more. Don't objectify them and don't objectify women. But sexualize them. And sexualize men. So, we have a list I want to close this with of, well, image no longer available. It's sad. But it is top 50 hottest male comic characters. Now, we're not going to read through all of them, but my point here, as you'll probably realize as we go through these, actually, let's even look at and say why people like these characters, like Wolverine. Feral, knuckle of muscle with a bad haircut, but having the right attitude is sexy, and Wolverine is 100% adamantium-laced attitude. Okay? So we can go through these characters and see the type of guys that people that tend to like men find attractive. And one thing you'll find is that there already are, to an extent, what I'm talking about already exists. Because, for one, men are, these very fit dudes who are wearing these outfits that are very skin tight and things like that. But, or like, here's Colossus wearing, basically nothing. Nothing wrong with that. Petey Pureheart, the X-Men's knight in shining armor, is a fine serving of premium beefcake, the soul of a hero, the body of an unusually sexy hood ornament. Yeah. Nightcrawler, on the subject of swashbuckling heroes, heroes don't come more dashing than the indigo elf of the X-Men. He looks like a devil. He smiles like a devil. He probably dances like one too. Yeah. So we see the kind of things that people who like men tend to appreciate. Yeah, look at this. Like, you could say, oh, that's like sexual. Yeah, sure. You can say it's sexualized. Good. Give more shots like this, please. All this. Yeah, do it. More. I mean, you're lying to yourself if you're going to look at this and say that this guy isn't. You know what I mean? This guy, I don't even know, the Axis from, I don't know. Axis is a loudmouth rent boy who thinks he knows everything. He's hot when he's trying to prove it. He's hotter when he's learning he's wrong. Tea House is a delightfully dirty series, and Axis is the tomcat of the Tea House. Okay. Gambit, 100%. Very suave, very, Number one is Nightwing. I'll tell you one of the reasons a lot of people like Nightwing, especially a lot of women. This right here, this is not fake. like this is a panel from a comic. So while again, I have no issue with things like this, please, let's have it. It's great. We also need more of this. Let's do it. Oh, this is cute. Cute and playful. Starfire spanking his ass. Like it. It's cute. Yeah. Now, I'll show you something that's a little bit off-putting, but maybe it shouldn't be. Now, here, we'll go through Batgirl a little bit, just so we can see, so you can see. This is her standard outfit. Because, another thing people say women are too sexualized in games as well. Again, no problem with it. Just have the stuff for women too, or people that like the male form, and that's pretty dope. It's a pretty cool one. That's a pretty good one too. I believe this. No, not this one. Okay, this one's my personal favorite. But Red Hood's not bad either. But anyway, so that's her, and you can see, yeah, she's definitely hot, but like she's Batgirl. Of course she's hot. But she's not, sexualized. Not that it would be a problem if she is. But we're gonna look at Nightwing, and especially in the. I wonder if we have. Is it the most replayed? It is. All right, look at this suit. Look at this. Look at that bulge. I'm not even like that was super distracting when I first saw this. Are we gonna show? Are you not gonna go around to his ass a little bit? No. Okay. Anyway, do shit like this. Do it. Do it. For people that like this, that like the male form, have it. Have the stuff for people that like the female form. Have the stuff for people that like the male form. That's all. That's all you need. That is all that you need.